were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Does that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. He stole her.
Questions are swirling over what exactly led to a fallout between President Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. They seemed to be good friends, and then suddenly they were no longer friends. And while taking questions from reporters today, Donald Trump was specifically asked about that and whether or not the break in their relationship had to do with the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was trying to poach employees from Trump's businesses. So today he stated that Jeffrey Epstein, quote unquote, stole Virginia Giuffre from him, who apparently was working at the spa in Mar-A-Lago. So that statement was during a press conference with reporters. And Trump did take several questions about his relationship with Epstein. I'm not sure it's helping him in any way. But that clip that we just played for you came near the end of the press conference. We have more to share with you. But so far, Cenk, what are your thoughts on what you heard in that clip?
Guy's mental. He's so dumb, he doesn't get it. Like, guys, hear me out. If you're a Trump supporter, right? What do you want Trump saying if he's innocent? Do you want him saying, yeah, I kicked Epstein out because he was a creep. I heard that he said something about a young girl and I said, not on my watch. And I kicked him out because I was morally outraged.
That was the original story.
No, Trump never actually said that. His supporters assumed that that's what it was. See, they actually made a logical assumption because that's something that would have helped Trump. That would have,
right.
But he's a massive liar, but he can't even figure out how to lie right? So that's the obvious lie. Now, I say lie in this case because you just heard the truth from Trump. He didn't say that. He said that he was bothered that Epstein took some of his employees from Mar-a-Lago, and that's why they had a falling out. But brother, we all know Epstein was a massive pedophile and ran this ring. When you say that you're more concerned that he took a couple of employees from your spa, don't you see that you seem to have no empathy for the girls? And then you mentioned that's one of the most spectacular cases, an unfortunate case. We're gonna tell you more about that in a second. And you say, instead of like, I can't believe what happened to her, you're like, yeah, he stole her from, she was my employee. Like, before we even know about the spa part, he had already yesterday mentioned that this was the reason that he had taken some sort of employee from Mar-a-Lago. And
so
Jon
wild.
Stewart yesterday did a brilliant monologue where he's like, so your real concern was that he had poached a low-level employee, right? But now today, it turns out when you hear more details, it's even worse. He's like, oh yeah, I can't believe he took the girls and raped them, right? No, he took my girls. They were working in my spa. Oh my God, you're so dumb.
And look, I don't think he's trying to say he took my girls from my spa who we were abusing or anything like that.
No, I'm not implying that.
Yeah, I just want to be very clear. That's not what's being stated. That's not what's being implied. But you have to understand the point that Cenk is trying to make here, which is that Epstein is a known pedophile, was a known pedophile who was raping and abusing minors. And so when reporters are asking you why you no longer wanted a relationship with him, and the first thing you go to is, he was poaching my employees, it doesn't really bode well for you. It's not good PR. He understands good PR, right? That's not good PR. Okay, so that's what he said toward the end of his Q&A with reporters. Prior to that, he made other Epstein-related statements. Let's take a look at that.
You said yesterday your falling out with Jeffrey Epstein was over him taking some of the workers from your business. But your administration in the past said that you threw him out because he was a creep. So can you explain that discrepancy?
Well, maybe they're the same thing, sort of a little bit of the same thing. But no, he took people that worked for me, and I told him don't do it anymore, and he did it. And I said, stay the hell out of here.
Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. But just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them
young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young women.
What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs.
In the spa.
Yeah, people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world in Mar-A-Lago.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, he's advertising the spa. Oh my God.
Oh God, Jesus Christ,
I didn't hear
man.
that part earlier. Okay.
We're talking about the biggest pedophile ring in American history, and you're marketing your spa. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? Like, everybody else already knows it. The left knows it, independents know it, right? But for those of you on the right, can you not see what the rest of us are seeing? The brother has no empathy at all. It just doesn't even occur to him. It's amazing.
So Virginia Giuffre is the woman who had accused Prince Andrew of raping her. She has since committed suicide. And the whole thing is just, this whole thing is so tragic and disgusting and ugly. And it is well known by now that President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein were once friends, but in the early 2000s, the two of them had their falling out. Now, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung stated that the fact is that the president kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club for being a creep. Now, that vague statement does line up with previous reporting about Trump and Epstein's relationship. According to former Trump aide Sam Nunberg's 2019 account to the Washington Post, Trump said he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago because of misconduct. Nunberg said Trump said he did so because Epstein had recruited a young woman who worked there to give him massages. This was years before the Epstein investigation became public knowledge, according to the Washington Post. Quote, he's a real creep, I banned him, Nunberg said Trump had told him. So like, why didn't Trump just say that in answering questions from the reporters? I think that he just seems very flustered when having to deal or respond to this situation. Anything having to do with the Epstein files, anything having to do with his past relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which is actually very uncharacteristic of Trump. You know, oftentimes when he finds himself in the middle of some controversy, he has this unapologetic air about him. But when it comes to this issue, for whatever reason, he behaves very differently. Now, multiple reports, including a 2020 book by reporters for the Miami Herald and Wall Street Journal, have linked Epstein's ban from Mar-a-Lago to alleged overtures to the teenage daughter of a Mar-a-Lago member. Now, Virginia Giuffre was again a victim of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's horrific pedophilic abuse. She was outspoken in calling for justice for all of the victims. And she did sue Jeffrey Epstein back in 2009 and made clear what her claims were against him dating back to 2015. Other survivors have also stated that Giuffre's courage gave them the strength to come forward with their own allegations and stories as well. And as I mentioned earlier, tragically, she committed suicide earlier this year, actually. And she was working at Mar-a-Lago at the time that she unfortunately met Maxwell and Epstein. So in 2000, court records show Ghislaine Maxwell struck up a conversation with her outside a locker room at Mar-a-Lago. Giuffre was only 17 years old at the time. She was a spa attendant at the club, having gotten the job through her father, who worked there as a maintenance man. According to Giuffre, Maxwell offered her a job at the spot as a masseuse for Epstein after seeing that she was reading a book about massage, telling her that she did not need to have any experience. She said that when she was brought to Epstein's Palm Beach home, she found him lying naked on the table. Maxwell, she claimed, instructed her on how to massage him. It's just absolutely disgusting.
By the way, that's the same Ghislaine Maxwell that Trump was asked about over the last couple of days and said that the pardon is still on the table. Why? Maybe it'll be off the table if you remind Trump that Ghislaine Maxwell was Epstein's co-conspirator in poaching his low-level employees. Like, that's the thing he apparently cares about, right? So
can we just take Trump's fairly recent comments about Maxwell and Epstein in context, right? Because it's not just about what he said in the context of this Q&A with reporters. It's also about him wishing Ghislaine Maxwell well when she was being prosecuted. You remember that? And it's like, why did you wish her well, knowing that she's the one who went to Mar-A-Lago, was the one who recruited one of your 17-year-old workers from the spa to be raped by the likes of Jeffrey Epstein? Why did you wish her well? Why?
And how does that not morally outrage you? If somebody was working here and somebody did that to them, I'd want to rip their head off.
I'd want to rip their head off.
I mean, I don't know, this whole building filled with empathetic people would be enraged, right? Trump's like, "They took a girl from my spa. I mean, that could have cost me $1 or $5. Like, what is wrong with you? Okay, so look, I'm gonna go to our members because they made a whole bunch of really good points, and I want to give voice to them. These are all on TYT.com. Newfie Dragon said, "Am I asleep or in the Twilight Zone? Did Trump just admit to being upset that Epstein stole his young spa girls?"
Yes.
Yes, it's unbelievable. Okay, pessimistic progressive said, sorry, Jar of Jam Bongino said, always, always, always about how it affects him. Yes, he has no ability to empathize, but I think the best one, and out of all these great comments, is pessimistic progressive. Wait, you're telling me the guy who bragged about having the tallest building after 9/11 has no empathy? Shocking, right?
Yeah.
Yes, remember after 9/11, the first interview he does on the radio, he's like, "Now my building's the tallest in New York," which by the way wasn't true, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? And he's like, "Haha, now I have the tallest building." I mean, who says that? And not like 10, 20 years later, like the day after.
Yeah.
As 3,000 people are burning still in the rubble of the building. He's like, "Haha, now my building's the tallest." So, and why do you think that people say that he, and I know if you're a Trump supporter, you'll never believe it. With the rest, you'll go the rest of your life never believing it, even though every other part of the puzzle confirms it. That he called people who were veterans, the people who were in the military, suckers and losers. And the follow-up question was, I don't get it. Why do they do it? Because he doesn't understand why you would have empathy for any other human being. Why you would ever sacrifice for any other human being. Why you wouldn't always look out for yourself. And that's why this idea that he's actually looking out for the average man in America is so ironic and tragic.
You know, for me, I get his supporters who want to deny stories like the claim that he called, our veterans suckers and losers, because they didn't hear it with their own ears. They didn't hear Trump say it for himself. But in this case, you hear it from the horse's mouth, and the lack of empathy and the real reason why he was upset with Epstein, I think, is telling. The fact that we still are not getting the Epstein files that were promised to the American people. By the way, forget the American people, that were promised to Trump's base in particular, I think is telling. And I do care about this. There are people who think it's a distraction. I totally disagree. When we have a situation in which we're now learning that there were 4 co-conspirators to what Epstein did, and they were never prosecuted, we don't know who they are, that's a problem. Who are those people? Why is it that we're not gonna ever get any justice for all of those young girls who were abused?
And Anna, I would say that it goes even deeper than that.
It does.
Because if they're trying to brush it aside, it's possible that they actually mean it, and they think like Kevin O'Leary, like the only thing that matters in the world is the stock market. I don't care about anything else that happens, right? So there are people like that, are one issue people like that. But generally speaking, the folks who say let's move on are the ones that have an agenda in saying that, right? But for the rest of us, do we have any faith in our own government?
Exactly.
That's why this issue is so central. Not because of the crime, which is horrific and historic in its own right, but because it's so obvious that our government is lying to us and rubbing it in our face.
Exactly.
So we lose faith in all of our institutions if we can't get the bare minimum. Who ran this giant pedophile ring that is out in the open and public, which there are hundreds of victims that we know about? If you tell us it didn't exist, then we're living in 1984. George Orwell was right about everything. That the state told you that to ignore the dictates, that what you see with your eyes and ears, right? And that was their most important dictate. That you believe the nonsense that this despicable government tells you, and then has the media trot out and go, no, everybody bow their heads. There's nothing to see here. Those girls raped themselves. Shut up and stop asking questions. Well, we're not going to. It goes to the core of whether we live in a democracy. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.